Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein, and super happy to have a wonderful guest for you, as always, today. Our guest is Allison Feaster. Allison is currently the Vice President of Player Development and Organizational Growth for the Boston Celtics. She tells us all about that job, all about her transition from being a player to the front office, being a pioneer as a woman in men's sports, and everything that she had to do to get to this point and who influenced her along the way. So really, really fun conversation. A little bonus for you guys towards the end of it. I'm going to leave that out there. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this podcast. And as always, I'll see you on the backside. So welcome, Allison Feaster, to the Legends of Sport podcast. So great to see you. I know right now we're talking, you're actually in LA with the Celtics, and
Yeah.
this is going to run, of course, after that. How is everything going for you? How has this season been?
Wow, this everything is going great. It's so hard to complain
Mm-hmm.
when as you know, you get to witness up close and personal this wonderful game of basketball, the best athletes in the world, in my estimation. It's a challenge with all the health and safety protocols, obviously. But at the end of the day, we get to do what we love and that's, help support these guys as they put on the best product in the world.
Yeah. Well, you and I were in the bubble together.
Yep.
How long were you there in the bubble?
We were there from the start, early July, maybe July 8th or 9th. I think we arrived and we left prematurely to our standards in the Eastern Conference Finals. We lost to Miami in 6 games.
Yeah.
So 80 plus days.
I saw you there, of course. We crossed paths. I mean, we couldn't really like talk to each other very much because there was all
Right.
crazy protocols about what we could do and where all the players and staff were and all that stuff. But
Right.
it was good to see you. That experience for me, I just got to tell you,
Right.
it was interesting. It was at times claustrophobic.
Yeah.
I was dealing with some, that quarantine period was tough.
Right.
I'm really glad that people like Paul George and others spoke out about the, mental health aspects of it, because
Right.
it wasn't just basketball. It was a
No.
big sacrifice for all of us. And you have your daughter, you away from her for
Right.
80 something days, right?
Right.
How was that experience for you overall?
Yeah, I am certainly so respectful of, each person's individual perspective on
Mhm.
what that experience was like. I think going into it, you add on what we all experienced in terms of, the COVID-19 pandemic, being isolated at home for several months, and then you obviously exponentially add on, the effects of George Floyd's murder and
Mhm.
others. So I want to be respectful of all of that. We all had that weighing on us, but at the same time, honestly, those were 80 of the best moments of 2020 for me,
Mhm.
because we got a chance to come together. We experienced something so powerful, and that was the return to play and what it meant for this country and this world to finally get sports back on TV. And we know what sports does for us, for our psyche. So I look back on it with extremely fond memories and very thankful for the sacrifice that everybody involved in the game made to get that game back.
Yeah. It was interesting to me because I talked to, a bunch of WNBA players. I talked to Derek Fisher, who was down there in the
Right.
WNBA bubble, and the WNBA players, if they were moms, they were allowed to bring their kids.
Yeah. Yep.
You're a mom, you're working in the NBA, and you can't bring your kid. So that seemed a
No.
little, I don't know. I don't want to say double standard, but it was just kind of weird to me. Right.
Yeah, that was tough. It was tough. My daughter, I don't even know if she would have come anyway. She was 14 at the time, 15
Yeah.
now, and she, I have to struggle to get on her calendar. So um,
I know the
that's how it is, as you know.
Believe me, I know the feeling. So, Allison, we got to get into a bunch of things, but I want to introduce your title, which is Vice President of Player Development and Organizational Growth. Okay, that's a
Right.
lot to chew on. Okay,
Right.
um, honestly, I have no idea what that means, but maybe
Right.
I kind of know what it means. But if you could
Yeah.
kind of just give us sort of the Cliff Notes version on that, on your role and job description.
Right. I'm actually writing a little, a keynote I'm going to make this evening to people aspiring to get into the sports industry. And as I defined it in that speech, it's number one, working with our staff to help these guys be the best they can be, both on and off the court, helping them to maximize every resource available to them so they can be the best they can be and be well-rounded, and not just have the game as a focal point of who they are. I think another bullet point under that title is to be a culture warrior, an ambassador for this brand,
Mhm.
the Celtics brand, internally and externally. I'm so proud to represent this team, and when we need someone to speak up and lead by example, I consider myself, along with many others, one of those people. And three, I have the great fortune of serving as a co-lead of our Celtics United and we have a social justice platform that we, focus on making an impact in our community in terms of correcting or, changing some of the social injustice and racial inequities we see in the greater Boston community. So just
Mhm.
really fortunate for this role, just in this opportunity.
Yeah, that role, is that part of or an offshoot of what you were doing with the U.S. State Department when you were doing it sort
Right.
of on a worldwide basis, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So that those opportunities with the State Department, a part of, I guess, Sports United. It's a sports diplomacy platform where we would, travel, and I'm pretty sure they do it in other sports as well. We travel around the globe we went to Myanmar, for example, to Suriname, Philippines.
Mhm.
Using sports and the values that you acquire through sports and the values we have here as Americans, to open up lines of communication, to improve lines of communication with other countries, and to learn and to share
Mhm.
best practices with other countries. So I think that was probably a primer for my role with the Celtics, and love the international aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah. I think our paths crossed a few times internationally, right?
For
Uh,
sure, for
over there.
sure.
Yeah.
Maybe
I w
China, for
Yeah,
sure.
China. I don't know if you were in South Africa. Were you on that trip in
I
South
was in South
Africa?
Africa.
So
Wasn't that's an amazing trip?
that
We
was
need to get back to that.
yeah, I love those international trips. I haven't been to India yet. Have you done India?
I have not done India, have
That's
not. So maybe that we can do that in 2022, maybe.
a new frontier for the NBA, right?
Yes.
I don't know if we're going back to China anytime soon, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
I was on that last trip with the Lakers. That was a little
Oh, wow. Yeah.
that's a whole other podcast. But
Yes.
anyway, so tell me and my audience, and I've obviously done research and I know the answer, but I would love to hear from you. How did it come about? I mean, how did
Right.
this job present itself to you?
Yeah. Wow. Serendipity, luck, lots of blessings. I joined the NBA league office in 2016 as a member of inaugural class of basketball operations associates. What
Hmm.
that is a program that was formed in 2016 to help former players, NBA and WNBA players, transition off the court to another career, basically. I joined with Drew Gooden, Corey Maggette, Troy Murphy, and Brian Cardinal and Stacey Lovelace, a former WNBA player. And we had the fortune of working with 5 teams each across the NBA. And my teams were Atlanta, Washington, Memphis, Charlotte, and Brooklyn. My good friend Stacey Lovelace had Boston, and she had family in Atlanta. So we made a trade last minute, and I took Boston off her hands, and she took
Draft
Atlanta.
night trade, just traded hats. Yeah,
Exactly. Give me Boston. Give me my ties, to the Boston community. I said, I'll
right.
take that off your hands. So from there, I had a chance to meet with Danny Ainge, Mike Zarin, Brad Stevens, Rich Gotham, others in the organization.
Mhm.
Made an impression, I would like to think, and had an opportunity to meet with folks on the Celtics organization. And fast forward a few years, when there was an opportunity, they wanted to fill a role. They wanted to fill director of player development at the time. Danny Ainge gave me a call, and the rest is sort of history, so to
Yeah.
speak.
So it just kind of came out of the blue almost, right? I mean, all of a sudden Danny's calling you and you're like, okay.
Yeah, pretty much,
What do you
pretty
got
much that.
tonight, Danny? All right. um, and I've read that you said that, or I saw another interview that you did. You said it wasn't a seamless transition going from an active player, an athlete
Right.
to the front office.
Right.
That's not really talked about a lot. Athletes just thought about, oh, they're going to go into broadcasting, or they're going to go in the
Right.
front office, or they're going to be a coach. Can you talk about that transition for you specifically, but
Yeah.
maybe what you've seen in your travels? I may actually talk to Corey Maggette about this on the podcast,
Right.
and he's a good friend and he's very open about it. But from
Yeah.
your perspective.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy transition. You dedicate your so many years of your life to um, being an elite level athlete on the court. You don't really have your eyes open to all the preparation and everything else that goes into careers off the court. And I think as athletes, a lot of us have this self confidence that we just assume, oh, I'm going to be a general manager the moment I step off the court. So not so. You have so many people who are preparing daily to fill those roles. So it was a tough transition, and I think people don't understand. For me personally, I always hear, "Oh, you went to Harvard. You can do anything you want to do. Oh, you have access to this, that." It's not the case. If you don't have, you know, if you haven't honed your skills along the way, then it's pretty difficult. And um, for an athlete, you play night in and night out. Those who are more fortunate, in front of thousands of fans, you get paid a lot of money, and when those lights go down, you hang those shoes up. It's dark and lonely at times, frankly,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of uncertainty and fear. But I think that in a nutshell is what it was like initially. But thankfully, um, some of the skills I acquired as an athlete, perseverance, resilience, forging forward and networking and meeting people and learning and stepping outside of my comfort zone, I was able to make some connections, thankfully, with a tremendous amount of help from others.
Mm. So, Allison, what we like to do here on Legends of Sport podcast is we like to go back in history, all right, where
Okay.
every guest started. So everyone started somewhere. There were
Yeah.
people along the way who helped you, mentors. Now you're a mentor, in your role. So, first of all, I got to know where the nickname Charlie came from.
Okay. Good question.
I got to know that because I read that a couple of times. I was like, okay, I got to ask
Yeah.
her.
My middle name is Charlene, and so my family, instead of calling me Allison, decided to call me Charlie, short for Charlene.
Makes sense. I got you.
Yeah.
So you decide to attend Harvard, right?
Right.
Um, Interesting decision, right? Because Harvard is not known as a sports powerhouse. I went to UMass,
Right.
right? So when we
Right.
played
Okay.
Harvard, it was like a given. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
like so
Love it.
it was like a gimme game. And
No, that's a
by the way,
fact.
love going to Harvard to the old football stadium. I mean, it's one of the
Yeah, it's
great
beautiful.
stadiums in the world, to go
Yeah.
to. I mean, I'm sure you were recruited out of high school. So what was that process like, the decision to go to Harvard?
It was really something I left in the hands of my mom. I really had faith in her foresight because I had very little at the time, obviously, as a high school student.
Yeah.
Um, so it was just relying on her words, and for us in rural South Carolina, and I grew up, partially raised by my great grandparents, my grandparents. Education was the currency to travel. It was something that they always said, quote unquote, no one could take away. For us, it meant you go to college, you get a job, and you help your family. And what better way to open some doors to opportunity than aspiring to attend a school like Harvard.
Mhm.
So my mom had the foresight to understand that one day I'd be able to repay those loans, and it would, that investment in me would pay off. So that's really how it happened for me.
What degree did you get from Harvard, by the way?
I'm majoring in economics.
Oh, okay.
Economics, yep.
Yes, you went for the easy stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So I'm going to embarrass you a little bit, but I have to give some accolades to you. What you accomplished at Harvard. I mean, seriously, the first athlete, and this was unbelievable to me, in any sport, male or female, to be honored as Ivy League Player of the Year 3 times. Right? Did I get that right? I hope.
Yep, that's
You were
correct.
Ivy League Rookie of the Year, and I guess the cherry on top really was, as a senior, you led the number 16 seeded team, Harvard, against number one seeded Stanford and beat them,
Right.
in the NCAA first round of the tournament on their court.
Yeah.
I mean, what the heck was that like? That must have been unbelievable, that feeling, right?
It was unbelievable. And I didn't really understand at the time the magnitude of it.
Hmm.
Um, but I watched the game for the first time ever this year,
No way.
20 plus years later.
It's funny.
And it kind of gives you chills when you think about we were not the most talented team,
Mhm.
but it was a testament to the daily preparation that we put forth, those 4 years to get ready, and the belief we had in our coach and in her system.
Mhm.
So when you look back on it and you see these young girls like running around crying and elated, frankly, that's what it was all about for us. It was us coming together, playing our roles, and pulling off something that was pretty impossible at the time. I
Yeah.
will say this, and it's not said often. Stanford was missing two starters, but those moments are things happen for a reason. It just led up to a moment for us, and we took advantage of it.
Yeah. I mean, when they just won, Stanford just won the NCAA women's tournament this year,
Right,
right?
right,
Shanae and Nick are good friends of mine, super happy for them.
right.
I mean, did you kind of like snicker and say, "Oh, we beat them"? It's like, you know, I
It's
know
funny
different
because
fan around.
there's an army of Stanford grads at the NBA league office. Bethany Donovan, for example,
Ah,
who's the
okay.
head of league operations. Amy Brooks, she recently joined our Celtics all hands call, and
Eh,
we have laughs about it all the time, all
I
the
love
time.
it. I love it. Um, so you credit your coach, your Harvard coach, Kathy Delaney Smith, with helping you out of your shell, right?
Right,
And
right,
becoming a vocal leader. You said it earlier, stepping out of your comfort zone.
right.
Um, I mean, I don't know her, but from what I've read about her and heard about her, she's an amazing person, right? I mean,
Yeah,
how influential was she in your life in general, but as an athlete and now, in the role you have now?
right. Very influential. I consider her, to this day, a second mom to me. I can recall the first visit she had in South Carolina with me and my mom and my high school coach. And she immediately made an impression. Um, she really was the example for me of what a strong woman was. Just in contrast to my mom, who is this, hard. I mean, she's hard for me, but everyone says she's sweet as pie, in public. But she was the perfect contrast to my mom, and just being this outspoken feminist, and instilled in all of us that we were of value, and women deserved more than what we were getting at the time. And so I immediately latched on to that, and I think the values that we all learned from her. We travel with those everywhere we go. We lead with those everywhere we lead today. And the examples are great. The former Harvard women's players who were impacted by her.
Mm. Yeah, and it sounds to me like you're paying that forward big time. I mean, you champion a lot of causes about girls and women's empowerment, right? Um, is there anything specific right now? I mean, I know you're busy. You're in the middle of the season. We're getting ready for
Right,
playoffs, but what are you involved with on that side of
right.
empowerment?
So any chance I get, to be an example, to share a few minutes with young women, young girls, young people, whoever, can take some strength from my experiences and my words. And I'm nobody. I don't want to sound like I'm the second coming, but I know what touching others' lives meant for me growing up
Hmm.
and being touched by others. So I try to do my part. So I start internally with our junior employees and our newer employees and up and comers, and spend time. I try to accept invitations to speak when I can. Today I'm speaking as the keynote speaker in a Boston area event sponsored by the 6 professional teams there for young professionals who want a career in sports.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I try to do my part. I'm so thankful for all the people who invested in me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, hopefully can have that same impact on someone else.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking really about mentorship, about being available to others. I mean, in your role with
Yeah.
the Celtics, I mean, it sounds like that's the perfect role for you. And how are the guys responding? How have they responded, on a daily basis?
Yeah. Oh man. They've made the transition so easy for me. I walk into the team meetings, I walk into practices. We sit down, for at meals together, and I'm so thankful for these young men, the coaching staff, and everyone else around me who've made me feel like I'm one of them, and I really am. There's really no difference at the end of the day. But our young guys, millions and millions of fans, want to touch. They're as amazing as human beings and people as they are as players. So they've made it seamless for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we have to talk about your professional career because I found it interesting that when you graduated from Harvard, first of all, were you drafted by the WNBA? I mean, WNBA
Yep.
just started, but then
Yep.
you chose to go to Portugal first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Um.
I mean, it might be a stupid question, but was that like a money decision? Because
Oh no.
yeah,
No,
well,
not at all.
well, because Penny Toller, talks about how she had to go to Europe to make money. I mean, the
Right.
WNBA was paying bupkis money, and then finally when she got into the WNBA, finally,
Right.
but still had to go to Europe to actually make more money. So, what
Right.
was that decision all about for you?
Yeah. So let me just give props to, the pioneers who paved the way for, present day WNBA players, the Cynthia Coopers, the Penny Tollers, who toiled years overseas before the WNBA was formed. My decision to join the W came because I was drafted fifth by the Los Angeles Sparks, Spark for life.
Yeah.
And so had no clue that I would be able to play professional basketball. So when the opportunity, presented itself, I said yes.
Hmm.
But I know there are a lot of WNBA players who loved the idea of going overseas in the off season.
Hmm.
Sucked that our season was only 3 months, but I loved being immersed in other cultures. I learned to speak. I perfected my Spanish. I learned a little bit of Portuguese.
Hmm.
Learned French. Became a French citizen. Won some EuroLeague titles. So without those experiences, I don't think I would have been able to. I mean, they were resume builders. If you put it, frankly. So I'm just really thankful for those experiences.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's interesting to me because looking at, your professional record, I mean, you bounced around. You were in Europe, then you came back, you played for
Right.
the NBA team, then you went back to Europe like
Right.
three times maybe. Um, I mean, not too many people do that. They either start in Europe and they come to the US, or it's the other way around. At
Right.
the end of their career, they go to Europe or, in China, Japan, whatever. So
Right.
was it just the opportunities that came up for you and you just saw it as maybe I don't know, more well-rounded
Right.
experience, I guess, right? Yeah.
I did. I think in some sense I embraced the European lifestyle a little bit more
Mhm.
than because the W is pretty competitive. I wasn't the most talented. I think
Mhm.
my game was probably defined by hustle. I eventually it developed a pretty reliable 3-point shot. So I saw Europe as like my moment to shine, my stage.
Yeah.
And yeah, I loved going abroad at the end of the WNBA season. And I think early on, a lot of players were doing that. They would, the moment the WNBA season wrapped up, they would hop on a plane, start playing in games overseas. When that season wrapped up, I remember playing the finals and a French league finals, for example, one night, getting on the plane the next day to come to play with the Charlotte Sting, and played in the game. And it's madness to think about it now, but
Yeah.
that's what WNBA players did
Yeah.
back in the day.
So now the WNBA has a new CBA, right? There's all kinds of benefits now, maternity benefits. The pay is better. Um, how satisfying is that for you as somebody who came into the league early, right?
Right.
And
Right.
knew what it was like back then, all the travel things, everything that's related. And we saw what happened, of course, with the U.S. national women's soccer team. I just had Jocelyn Lemereau on, who was one of the pioneers of trying to basically sue USA Hockey, to get the women at least some equity and some respect.
Right.
Um, so how does that all make you feel?
It gives me a sense of pride.
Yeah.
The WNBA women today are so empowered and are, um, man, not only amplifying others' voices, but using their platform
Mhm.
to get what they deserve. They're the best athletes on the planet, and that they were able to come together, sit down at a table with the NBA, the WNBA, their player association, and get what they deserve. That gives me a great sense of pride to know that I'm associated, with this league of women. So
Mhm.
couldn't be more proud, and they couldn't be more deserving of what they're getting.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You talked earlier about the pioneers of the WNBA women's basketball, but you're a pioneer too. I mean, one day, like my daughter or her generation is going to look back on you, Becky Hammond, Katie Sauer
Right.
with in the NFL, the women referees who are now working in that, in NFL and the NBA. I mean, across the board, in league offices. I mean, I know you're very humble and you don't think that way, but it's to me, it's pretty incredible that you are doing this. And do you see more women, getting
Right.
into management,
Right.
coaching in the men's leagues, not just in the NBA, but across the board?
I do think that will eventually happen on an increased basis. I think what people are thankfully starting to realize. Uh, we're ready. We've worked years and years preparing ourselves. We've dealt with a distinct set of circumstances, not uniform, but distinct set of circumstances to get where we are.
Mhm.
We add a unique perspective to the conversation. So I do think it will increasingly happen. But you know, to the ones who made it, to the ones who paved the way, um, I'm just really thankful, and even more thankful to be considered a role model, and someone that others look up to, because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. You have to pull someone up along with you, because nobody got here alone. I certainly wouldn't be in the Boston Celtics front office if Danny Ainge hadn't carved out a space, or Brad Stevens hadn't carved out a space for me.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I hear you. So when you were playing for the Sparks, right? They were still at the Forum, right?
Right,
And
right. Great wrestling
there was a
form.
young fella named Kobe Bryant who was playing for the other team in town on the same in the same building.
Right,
Did you get to see Kobe play, and did you have any memories of Kobe, any interactions with him? I'm trying to ask
right,
all the guests about the legacy that he's left behind.
right. So yes, we'd cross paths with the team. Obviously, the seasons we didn't coincide in season, but they would show up at our games. I remember Shaq sitting courtside. Kobe, our coach was Laker great Michael Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
I started out, I think, in my rookie season, Orlando Woolridge was our coach.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Kobe was obviously not the persona that he is today for all of us, and
Mm-hmm.
but certainly recall seeing him and others sitting courtside. Um, I mean, obviously, what we could say about Kobe is endless, but I'm left with, since we're speaking about women's empowerment and what he meant to the game, the mark that he left on the women's game, and the flood of attention and eyes that were poured onto the WNBA just because of an orange jersey, or his embrace with his daughter along her basketball journey. He was doing wonderful things for the women's game, but I think it was just the tip of the iceberg for what his legacy and what he was about to do for the women's game. So I challenge and charge all girl dads, all NBA players, all anyone who has a daughter or an important woman in his life to follow Kobe's lead in that respect.
Mm. Yes, I hear. I have 3 daughters and a son, so I'm with you.
Okay.
I get it.
Yes.
Um, Allison, so great talking to you. I have a daughter sitting right over
Yeah.
here who really would like to ask a question of you, if you don't mind.
I would be
Her
honored.
name is Mimi. She's a 7th grader, 12, almost 13. So,
Okay.
Mimi, if you could log in. There
What's up,
she is.
Mimi? Hi.
Hi.
How
Hi.
are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. This is awesome.
That's good. Okay, should I ask?
Yeah,
you?
Mimi, do you have a question for Allison?
I do. Okay, so do you feel your choice of college has helped you now, like your
Oh
career
my.
path?
That is a great question. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, there are not many. I mean, the Harvard brand is what it is, but there are certainly not many professional athletes who can say he or she went to Harvard. They
Mm.
went to Harvard, and
Yeah.
so it automatically gives you some intellectual credibility when you say you went to Harvard. Whether or not that's true or not, people automatically assume you're smart. So that's a plus. And then having attended Harvard, you are exposed to so many different cultures, different types of students. Everyone has something very unique and special, that makes them who they are.
Mhm.
And I think, yeah, it absolutely has helped me. And I don't think I would have changed or made a different college choice if I had to do it over again.
Yeah, it's
So,
interesting because Mimi, since she was like 3 years old, literally
yeah,
wanted to go to Yale. I don't know why. We'll talk about this later, Mimi. But
yeah,
she,
we will talk about it
yeah.
offline.
But, but
No.
the student athlete experience in an Ivy League school is different.
Yeah,
It's just different than a Division One. It's more student and
yeah,
athlete later on, right?
yeah,
So
totally.
that's something to really think about, me for sure. Yeah.
I will be honest. You can't go wrong if you go to Yale. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a Yale Bulldog,
Right.
but
Right. Well,
True.
we liked Harvard too because we made a
yeah,
whole trip out of it. And Mimi's sister was about to decide on a college, so we went to see all the
right.
colleges in the East Coast and stuff.
Okay,
For some reason, she just fell in love with Yale. But
Well,
okay.
I don't know. It's been like ever since I was little, I just wanted to go to Yale. It was just a reoccurring thought in my mind. And my uncle went to Yale too.
that's true.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well,
Keep
Ivy
in the
League is
family. Okay.
Ivy League. You can't beat it for sure.
No, not at all.
Well, Mimi, you have any other questions before we let Allison go?
No. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much for letting me ask a question.
Thank you for asking. That was a great one.
Get back
Thank
to the
you.
7th grade, Mimi. Get back to that 7th grade stuff.
I
Bye.
will. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Allison. It
Oh, that was great.
She's awesome. She's in this hybrid crazy school thing where 3 days a week at home, right?
Yeah.
And then 2 days a week, Thursday and Friday, just for 3 hours in school. I mean, it
Oh
really
gosh.
makes zero sense, but at least she gets to see her friends and there's some, continuity from a year of not being in there. So
Yeah.
yeah. So great to connect with you. Thanks so much for the time. And I will see you, tomorrow, actually, right?
I would love to grab a photo with you
Oh,
if we can.
that's a
If we
no-brainer.
can.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll have to do it somewhere discreetly where the eyes aren't watching. No, I'm kidding.
No worries.
No, it's all good now. The protocols have been loosened, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
You're going to actually be at Staples with fans for the first time since the
Yeah.
pandemic hit, which is going to be amazing.
It will
So,
be amazing. I'm
yeah.
happy that they'll be there, but I'm not sure if that's going to help us against the Lakers. It's probably going to galvanize them a little bit. So
I know.
we'll have to bring it.
Well, I got to tell you, Allison, Lakers, Celtics, when those schedules used to come out back in the 80s and 90s, I would circle those games. They were always in February. They were always a network game, on a Sunday. So much history there. So I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing the guys in green go against the purple and gold. For me, there's nothing better than that. So
I agree.
All right. Well, have a great day. Thanks so much for all your time. And it was really, really fun catching up with you.
This was awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Much love.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this episode with Allison Feaster. She is truly a legend of sport and an incredibly humble person. Everything she's accomplished on the court and now what she's doing off the court. Really, I applaud Allison, and I can't thank her enough for taking the time to be a guest today. Thanks also, as always, to my producer, Veronica Ahn. A huge thanks to Christian Migliola and my dear friend, Jeff Twist from the Celtics PR staff for helping to make this interview with Allison possible during a very busy time during the Celtics season. And of course, a gigantic thanks to my co-host, my beautiful daughter, Mimi, for adding her little touch to this podcast and being a great part of the interview today. So thanks everyone for continuing to download and subscribe to our podcast. A reminder that you can find us on the LA Times app and online, as well as all your favorite podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify. Please keep following us on Instagram at Legends of Sport, our Twitter at Legends_of_Sport, our blog, legendsofsport.blog, and of course, our TikTok and YouTube channels, Legends of Sport. And you can always find my photography on Instagram at ADB Photo Inc. So thanks, everyone. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another great guest. Love that you guys keep downloading, subscribing, tell your friends, keep following us on social, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, stay safe. And what am I going to say? I think you guys know. Wear your mask. Even now, keep wearing it. See you, everybody.